The chamber of the Galactic Council was a cold, beautiful place. Light did not come from lamps, but from the very walls and floor, a soft glow that made the air seem thick. In the center of the vast room, representatives from 100 species sat in a wide circle. Their forms were many. Some were floating orbs of gas. Others were multi-limbed creatures with chitinous shells, and a few looked almost human. But with skin of shimmering violet or eyes, there were solid black dot at the focus of the circle stood 2 humans. Captain Park Jun stood stiffly in his formal dress uniform, the blue and black of Earth's unified fleet. His face was a mask, but his dark eyes tracked every movement in the room. Next to him, Ambassador Lee Yuna was a study in calm intensity. She wore a simple, gray suit, her hands clasped quietly in front of her. They were alone. Their aides had been made to wait outside the great doors. Opposite them, on a platform that rose slightly above the floor, was the one who would decide their fate. Speaker Kavix was an insectoid being, tall and slender. His body was a polished, dark carapace. His 4 arms were folded. His multifaceted eyes reflected the image of the 2 small humans a dozen times over. The soft clicking of his mandibles was the only sound in the quiet room. The accusation was not shouted. It was displayed. A holographic image blossomed in the air above them all. It showed the celestial spire, a natural monument of crystalline growth on a sacred, uninhabited moon. It was a place of deep spiritual significance for the oldest council species. The Alara, the next image, was the same spire. Now shattered, its beautiful structure collapsed into dull, gray rubble. The energy signature, Kavix said. His voice a synthetic translation that carried no emotion. Is a perfect match for a human quantum drive resonance, specifically that of the Earth vessel Unyielding Spirit, which was conducting survey operations in the adjacent sector. Chun's jaw tightened. The Unyielding Spirit was conducting a mineral survey, as logged and approved by Council oversight. Our drive was in standby mode. We were 5 light minutes from the moon. The resonance you show is impossible at that range. Your logs, Kavix clicked, can be altered. The physical evidence cannot. The Alara have lost a treasure. The Council has lost its peace. A new member, so eager, so fast, has brought destruction. Yuna took a small step forward. Her voice was clear and firm, cutting through the heavy air. Speaker, respected members of the Council, this evidence is not just questionable, it is false. We have submitted our own sensor data, taken from not only the Unyielding Spirit, but from 3 passive monitoring buoys in the sector. They show a distinct energy spike from an unknown origin within the moon's atmosphere, just before the spire collapsed. Our ship's signature is a background echo, not a cause. A soft murmur went through the chamber. One of the Alara representatives, a being of shifting light and gentle hum, pulsed with a sad color. Your data is chaotic. Human technology is new. It is not trusted. The pattern of your drive is the pattern of the crime. It is simple. It is too simple, Yuna insisted, turning to address the circle. We gain nothing from this act. We sought only to learn and to join this great community. To destroy a site of such importance would be insanity. Please, we ask for a joint investigation. Let us send a team with your scientists. Let us find the real truth. The truth, however, was not the point. Jun saw it now. As his eyes scanned the circle, he did not see curiosity or a desire for justice. He saw annoyance. He saw fear. The older species looked upon humanity and saw a child that had learned to run before it was told it could crawl. In mere decades since first contact, humans had adapted council technology, improved upon it in small, clever ways. Their ships were not the fastest, but they were strangely tough. Their medicine was primitive, Yet they had solved several of their own genetic diseases that still plagued others. They asked too many questions. They were unpredictable. Speaker Kavix raised one slender hand. The murmur died. The council has deliberated. The evidence, while circumstantial to your young minds, is clear to us. The law is clear. A member species that willfully destroys a protected heritage site of another is subject to the highest penalty. Yuna's calm finally cracked. Highest penalty? You speak of sanctions, of reparations? We will pay whatever, not sanctions, Kavix interrupted, his faceted eyes fixed on them. Exile. The word hung in the glowing air, heavy and final. You will remove all human presence from council space. Every colony ship, every research outpost, every listening probe. You have one standard cycle. When that time passes, the border will be sealed. Any human vessel, any human life sign found within the jurisdiction of the Galactic Council will be classified as a cosmic contaminant. Jun felt the blood drain from his face. A contaminant, and will be cleansed, Kavix finished, without warning and without mercy. This is the judgment. It is merciful. We do not take your homeworld. We simply remove you from our garden. The chamber was utterly silent. The judgment was not just a punishment. It was an erasure. All their work, their alliances, their dreams of the stars among other species gone. They would be alone, confined to their solar system, behind a border they could not cross. Yuna stood tall, but her knuckles were white. You are making a terrible mistake. You are not judging a crime. You are fearing a rival. And in your fear, you are creating something you truly will have to fear. Kavix made a sound like dry stones rubbing together. A dismissal. The sentence is passed. You will be escorted to your ship. Your communication channels to the Council will remain open for one cycle to coordinate the withdrawal. Use them wisely. Guards, tall and armored in seamless plate, moved from the shadows. They did not touch the humans, but their presence was a wall. The audience was over. The walk back through the gleaming corridors of Oros Prime was a blur. The alien faces they passed now seemed like masks, hiding either pity or satisfaction. They said nothing until the airlock of the unyielding spirit sealed behind them, and the sterile, recycled air of their own ship filled their lungs. On the bridge, the crew looked at them, hope dying in their eyes as they saw the stone in Chun's expression and the devastation in Yuna's. Set a course for Seoul, Chun said, his voice rough. Maximum speed. As the ship pulled away from the glittering station, turning its back on the community of worlds, June and Yuna stood at the viewport. The stars outside were the same, but they now looked like bars on a cage. What do we tell them? Yuna whispered, staring at the receding jewel of Oros Prime. What do we tell Earth? Jun watched the stars streak into lines as the jump drive engaged. The galaxy ahead was suddenly vast and terribly empty. We tell them the truth, he said, a hard edge forming in his voice where despair wanted to live. We tell them we have been cast out, and then we must decide what we become in the darkness they have left us in. Behind them, left in the council chamber, the hologram of the shattered spire still hung in the air. Speaker Kavix watched the human ship's blip vanish from the sensor display. A representative from a species that had long envied the Alara's influence drifted closer. Was it wise, Speaker? To push them so far? They are. Resilient. Kavix's mandibles clicked softly, a sound of pure indifference. They are alone. Resilience without resources is nothing. They will wither in their solitude, or they will try to return and be removed. The calculus is simple. They are a problem that has now been deleted. He turned away, the fate of an entire species already forgotten, a minor administrative task completed. The galaxy, in his view, was once again in its proper order. The silence was the first thing everyone noticed. For a century, humanity had listened to the galactic network. It was a constant, quiet chatter of 1,000 civilizations' trade routes, scientific bulletins, even snippets of alien art and music. Now, there was only static where that channel had been. The solar system had become a quiet room. The first months were chaos. Panic, despair, and a terrible, crushing loneliness swept through Earth, Luna, and Mars. The colonies on the Jovian moons felt it worst of all, now truly outposts on the very edge of nothing. There were riots. There were calls for surrender, for finding a way to beg the Council for forgiveness. It did not last. On a screen in every home, on every colony hub, Captain Park Chun appeared. He was not in his uniform. He wore a simple black jacket. The background was a plain gray wall. He looked older, and his eyes held no plea. "They have told us we are contaminants," he said, his voice flat. "They believe we will wither. They believe solitude is a punishment. For us, it never has been. Every discovery on Earth was made in solitude. Every step into our own sky was taken alone. Now we take our next step, not as members of their club, not as petitioners. We step as humans. The solitude directive is now in effect. We work, we build, we think, and we do not look back." The message ended. The solitude directive was not a law. It became a religion. The old nations, the old arguments, they dissolved almost overnight. Resources were pooled. Scientists who had competed for fame now shared data on open networks. Engineers on Mars collaborated with theorists on Luna in real time. On the Moon, in lunar base Sarang, Dr. Kong Min lived in the data. His lab was a mess of screens and floating holograms. He had watched the Council's evidence 1,000 times. The quantum resonance signature that had condemned them. It was familiar, but wrong. Like a perfect copy of a human fingerprint, but with the lines too straight, too clean. It was a forgery. His breakthrough came at 3 a.m, station time. He was running a simulation, not of the fake resonance, but of the background noise from the unyielding spirit's own logs. In a tiny, ignored spike of data, he found it. A quantum fluctuation that was not supposed to exist. It was an echo, a shadow of something far bigger. "It's a key," he mumbled to the empty lab, his breath fogging in the cool air. "They don't understand it. They think it's just a drive signature. But it's a side effect. A side effect of folding space without a gate." The Council's technology was based on fixed jump gates. They were like bridges between stars. Humanity had been given the technology to use the bridges, but not to build them. The resonance signature was a glimpse of a bridge that moved, a bridge you could build yourself, anywhere. On Mars, in the vast underground workshops of the Hellas Basin, Choi Mia saw Min's data. She was a practical woman, her hands scarred from a lifetime of building. Where Min saw theory, she saw a blueprint. Her team was already working on new hull designs, using materials the Council considered too difficult to work with dense. Heavy alloys that could take a beating. "They fight with pretty plasma bolts and energy shields," she said to her team, pointing at a screen showing a Council cruiser. "Elegant, efficient, but punch through the shield and the hull is like paper. We build differently. We build to survive." She called Min. Their conversation was short, fueled by caffeine and desperation. "Your math says we need a gravity field of impossible strength to make the sling drive work," Mia said. "Yes," Min replied, his eyes wide on the screen. "What if we don't generate the field all at once?" She asked, "What if we pulse it? Like a hammer hitting a nail. We don't hold the space open. We slap it aside for a microsecond and shoot the ship through the crack." Min stared. It was brutal. It was inelegant. It was utterly human. The sheer forces would tear any known material apart. Mia smiled, a hard, fierce smile. Then we'll find a new material. On Earth, General Kim Wan oversaw the impossible. The asteroid belt, once a distant frontier, became a buzzing hive. Massive, hidden shipyards were built inside mined-out asteroids. The light of forges and welding torches would have been visible to the Council, but they were not looking. They had already forgotten Huan visited the main yard, Forge 1. He floated in the observation deck, looking at the skeleton of a ship unlike any other. It had no graceful curves. It was angular, armored, covered in thick plates. Its weapons were not streamlined cannons, but blocky projections for launching solid projectiles and strange, bulbous generators for gravity-based weapons. It's ugly, an engineer next to him sighed. Good, Juan said. Pretty didn't save us. Pretty got us exiled. Make it mean. Make it strong. Make it ours. The work was brutal. People worked until they collapsed. They lived on stinpacks and belief. But a new spirit was born in those tunnels and shipyards. It was not hope, not exactly. It was a cold, focused kind of anger, tempered into purpose. They were not just building ships. They were building an answer. A year passed. The deadline approached. The last human probes at the edge of Council space powered down and began the long, slow drift back home. The final communication channel from the Council blinked with a single automated reminder of the deadline. No one answered it. On the day the exile became official, Jun and Yuna stood together on a balcony overlooking the main construction bay of Forge 1. Below them, the first completed dreadnought, the Zhongjin, sat in its cradle. Its name meant steadfast truth. It was monstrous and beautiful in its power. Do you think they are watching? Yuna asked quietly. Do you think they wonder what the silence means? Jun shook his head, his eyes on the ship. No, Kavik said it himself. They believe resilience without resources is nothing. They think we are sitting in the dark, crying. A ghost of a smile touched Yuna's lips. You saw Min's latest report. The sling drive prototype worked. For 3 microseconds, they opened a crack in space big enough for a probe. The probe is gone. They're tracking it now. It jumped 10 light years in a blink. No gate. And Mia's new armor? Jun asked. The test projectile hit at 90% of light speed. It made a dent. A dent we can buff out. They stood in silence for a long moment, watching the workers, like ants, swarm over their creation. The air vibrated with the sound of industry. What are we making, Jun? Yuna's voice was soft. Is it a shield? Or a sword? Jun turned to look at her, and for the first time since the judgment chamber, she saw a fire in his eyes that was not just reflection from the welding torches below. We are making a fact, he said. They exiled a species of petitioners. They defined us as weak. We are going to show them a new fact. We are going to show them what happens when you leave humans alone in a room with a problem. We don't just solve it. We master it. And then we walk back through the door. Far away, at the very edge of what was once the human monitoring zone, a Council listening post registered a tiny, impossible blip of energy. It was a pulse of gravity, so strong it bent space, then vanished. The automated system logged it as a minor anomaly, a piece of cosmic debris falling into a micro black hole. It filed the report into a database no one would ever check. The silence from the human systems was, after all, complete and expected. The problem, as far as the Galactic Council was concerned, was already over. The edge of Council space was marked by nothing a human eye could see. There were no walls, no lines of light. There was only a boundary in a database, a line on a star chart. Near the silent, icy rubble of a dwarf planet, a small ship hung in the void. It was the Curiosity, a human science vessel. Its hull was patched and worn, its drive cold. To any scanner, it was a derelict, a piece of trash left over from the Exile. Inside, it was anything but. Every system hummed at minimum power. In the cockpit, pilot Na Day watched her screens with fierce concentration. She was young, her black hair tied back in a simple knot. Her hands rested lightly on the controls. "All quiet, Doctor," she said into her headset. "Just the usual cosmic background. Council patrols are lazy. Their schedule is like a clock." The voice of Dr. Kang Min came back, crackling from light years away on Luna. "Good. The sling drive is ready for its final field test. Remember, Day, it is not a gentle push. It will feel like a kick. The stabilizers should handle the gravity shear, but if the red light flashes, you eject the core immediately." "I know the drill, Doc," Day said, a slight smile on her face. "Open a door, peek through, come right back. Simple." "Nothing about this is simple," Min replied, but she could hear the excitement in his voice. "We are reading you clearly. On your mark." This was the test. The Curiosity was not drifting. It was a baited hook, parked just a few thousand kilometers over the Exile line. The new sling drive was hidden in its belly, a pulsing heart of impossible physics. The plan was to activate it for a fraction of a second. Jump a microscopic distance, just enough to register the unique quantum signature, and then shut down. Appearing to be a ghost on the sensors, Day took a deep breath. Initiating drive sequence in 3, 2. A proximity alarm screamed. A shape blotted out the stars. A Council patrol cruiser, sleek and polished, slid into view. It was not on schedule. Its weapons ports glowed with a soft, menacing light. A comms channel burst open. Unidentified derelict. "This is the Galactic Council vessel Clarity of Purpose. You are in a restricted zone. Power down all systems and prepare for boarding and scan." Day's blood went cold. She cut the feed to Luna. "Council vessel, this is the independent science craft Curiosity. We are experiencing technical failure. We are not under power. We request assistance." On the bridge of the Clarity of Purpose, Commander Varel watched the human ship on his screen. He was a bipedal reptilian species, his scales a dull green. He felt a deep boredom. Guarding this empty border was a punishment duty. Finding this human junk was a minor distraction. His orders were clear. Any human presence was contraband. Contraband was to be destroyed. "Your registration is invalid," Varel said, his voice a bored hiss. "You are a contaminant. You have 10 of your seconds to initiate self-destruct, or we will do it for you." This was not a negotiation. They saw the energy spike in their main cannon. "Wait, we are leaving. We can move." It was too late. Varel gave a lazy flick of his wrist. A bolt of brilliant blue plasma shot from the cruiser. It was not meant to disable. It was meant to erase. The Curiosity was not a warship, but Mia's lessons had been applied to every human vessel. The hull was layered with the new reactive armor. The plasma bolt hit. Instead of vaporizing the ship, the armor absorbed and dissipated the energy in a shower of molten slag. The Curiosity spun wildly, alarms shrieking, whole sections venting air. It was crippled, but not dead. They shot. They gasped into the open mic to Luna, struggling with the spinning controls. "Armor held, but we're dead in the water. They're charging another shot." Min's voice was frantic in her ear. "Hold on, Day. Just hold on." From the dark side of the dwarf planet, another ship arrived. It did not slide gracefully out of a jump gate. It seemed to tear its way into reality. Space rippled around it, like water hit by a stone. It was the Jongjin. It was massive, angular, and utterly silent. Its hull was a non-reflective black, absorbing the starlight. On the bridge of the Zhongjin, Captain Park Chun stood with his hands behind his back. The image of the wounded Curiosity and the sleek council cruiser filled the main screen. His face showed no emotion. "Hail them," he said. The comms officer sent a simple, clean signal. No visual, just audio. Commander Varel jerked in his seat as a new, much larger signature appeared on his scanner. The profile did not match any known council or alien design. The voice that came through his speaker was human, flat and calm. "Council vessel. This is Captain Park Chun of the human ship Zhongjin. You have fired upon a civilian vessel under our protection. Stand down. Power down your weapons. We will retrieve our people and depart." Varel felt a spike of anger, not fear. A human giving him orders? "Human contaminant," Varel hissed back. "You have violated the Exile. Both vessels will be cleansed. This is the law." On the Zhongjin, Jun sighed quietly. He had hoped, just for a second, that it could be simple. "General Kim," he said, "you may proceed." General Kim Hwan, standing at the tactical station, nodded. "Torsion beam generators to full. Target their primary power core. Launch one canister from battery 3. Standard yield." The Clarity of Purpose fired its plasma cannons again, a full barrage aimed at the monstrous black ship. The bolts of superheated energy streaked across the void, and then bent. They curved away from the Zhongjin's hull as if repelled by an invisible shield, dissipating harmlessly into space. It was a gravity lens, a simple manipulation of fundamental force. Before Varel could understand what he was seeing, his ship was hit. It was not an energy weapon. It felt like the hand of a giant had grabbed the cruiser and twisted. Metal groaned. Support beams snapped inside the hull. Alert screamed as the main power core was wrenched from its alignment and went offline. The ship was dead in space, lights flickering. Then, a simple metal canister, no bigger than a man, shot from a launch tube on the Zhongjin. It crossed the distance in a flash. It did not explode. When it reached a point 100 meters from the Clarity of Purpose's hull, it detonated, releasing a cloud of millions of tiny, hyperdense tungsten needles. They spread out in a cloud and hit the cruiser's hull at a significant fraction of light speed. It was not an explosion. It was like the ship had been hit by the world's largest sandblaster. Whole sections of the outer hull were simply scraped away, shredded into dust. The cruiser was now a floating, powerless, scarred wreck. Inside, Varel was thrown to the deck. The lights were out, replaced by emergency red glow. His systems were dead. He could not move, could not fight, could not even call for help. A primal, cold fear seeped into him. It was not the fear of battle. It was the fear of irrelevance. They had not fought him. They had processed him. On the Zhongjin, the screen showed the drifting, broken council ship and the wounded Curiosity. "Rescue shuttles to the Curiosity," Jun ordered. "Get Pilot Na out of there." He opened the channel to the council cruiser one last time. He could hear the hiss of escaping air, the moans of injured crew. "Commander Varel," Chun's voice was unchanged, still calm. "Your ship is disabled. Your crew is alive. We are not like you. We do not fire on the helpless. We do not call living beings contaminants. You will be left with enough life support for a distress call." He paused, letting the silence fill the channel. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of a year in the forges, of solitude turned to strength. "You will deliver a message to the council. Tell them the exiles are returning, and tell them to check their old files. They should look up what happens when humanity is given a problem to solve. We have been working on the problem of our exile, and we have found a solution." The channel closed. The Zhongjin's powerful tractor beams gently pulled the crippled Curiosity into its hangar bay. Then, space around the massive black ship rippled once more. It did not turn. It simply folded itself out of existence, leaving only the drifting wreck of the clarity of purpose and the cold, silent stars. Inside his broken bridge, Commander Varel stared at the empty space where the monster had been. The fear was gone, replaced by a horrifying understanding. They had not just built a new weapon. They had built a new kind of war. And he had just been the first to see it. He crawled to the broken comms panel, his claws slipping on the cracked console. He had to send the message. He had to tell them the silence was over, and it had been replaced by a roar. The Galactic Council did not receive one message. They received dozens, from patrol ships, merchant lanes, and border outposts. The reports were fragmented, confused. They spoke of impossible ships that moved without gates, of weapons that bent physics, of silent, black vessels that appeared and vanished like nightmares. The core worlds dismissed them as panicked rumors, the result of faulty sensors or space madness. Humanity was gone. The file was closed. Then the Zhongjin arrived at Xylos Prime. It did not attack. It did not hail. It simply appeared in high orbit, a silent, angular shadow against the bright planet. Panic swept through the system. Defense fleets scrambled, forming glittering lines between the intruder and the world. On the bridge of the Council flagship, a proud vessel called the Guardian of Law, the commander opened a hailing frequency, demanding surrender. The response was not from the Zhongjin. It was a broadcast sent on all public bands in the clear. A visual appeared on every screen on Xylos Prime and on every ship. It was Ambassador Li Yuna. She stood on what appeared to be a simple, peaceful garden terrace with green plants behind her. She wore plain clothes. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. People of Xylos Prime, members of the Council Fleet, we are not here for war. We are here to talk and to give a gift. Behind her, a holographic display blossomed. It showed complex molecular structures, energy flow charts. Your species suffers from the crystal lung, a degenerative disease that hardens respiratory tissue. Your medicine has been unable to treat it for 3 centuries. Your children die from it. We have a cure. A data packet, enormous and uncompressed, was transmitted directly to the Xylosian Planetary Medical Network. It contained the complete schematics for a tailored nano-treatment, the science behind it explained in simple terms. It was not a trick. The leading medical A is on Xylos analyzed it and gave a 99.8% probability of efficacy. The Council Fleet Commander was furious. This is a contamination. Do not accept the data? It is a trick. But it was too late. Doctors across the planet, desperate to save their patients, had already accessed it. The gift was given. The Zhongjin vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The defense fleet was left hovering, their weapons cold, their purpose suddenly meaningless. A week later, a human freighter, small and unarmed, appeared at the jump gate hub of Syraxis Station, the busiest port in the sector. It was crewed by 2 people. They docked, ignoring the station's demands for identification. When security forces surrounded their airlock, the hatch opened. A human man in a simple engineer's suit stepped out, his hands open. "We are here for the market," he said. "We have something to sell. Power." He presented a small, heavy cube. He placed it on the deck. With a touch, it activated. A clean, stable, and incredibly powerful fusion reactor, small enough to power a city block, hummed to life. It had no radioactive waste. It used common hydrogen. The technology was beyond anything on the market. He offered the schematics, for free, to the station's engineering guild. Your people spend half their energy budget on waste containment. This solves that. Then the humans left. The station authorities, stunned, could not decide whether to arrest them or thank them. By the time the council ordered their detention, the freighter was gone. This pattern repeated, not with warships, but with whispers. A human science team appeared at a research outpost studying a dying star, offering a model of stellar mechanics that predicted its behavior perfectly, saving the outpost. A single human doctor arrived at a plague world, not with a vaccine, but with a gene-editing protocol that made the population immune. Each time, the humans came without fanfare, delivered their gift of impossible science, and left before the council's slow bureaucracy could react. They were not attacking the council's military. They were making it irrelevant. The final, breathtaking act was the gates. The council's power was built on the jump gate network. They controlled the bridges between stars. One day, at the key hub gate near Oros Prime itself, a human vessel, the Steady Hand, appeared right in the middle of the traffic lane without using the gate. It caused a panic. Before the guards could fire, it broadcast a simple signal dot. It was a new set of coordinates, a new kind of map. It showed gravitational pathways, stable points in space where a sling drive could be safely used. It was a public roadmap for traversing the galaxy without gates. The human captain, a woman with graying hair, spoke calmly. The bridges are useful, but you do not need permission to cross a river if you can fly. We are giving you the wings. Then the Steady Hand performed a sling jump right there in the crowded hub, not along the gate's path, but on a new, shorter route towards a nearby star. It was a demonstration and a declaration. The gates were obsolete. Chaos erupted in the council chambers. Speaker Kavix, his carapace seeming duller, stood before the now fractured assembly. The Alara were silent. They had accepted the human cure for their own ailments. The Xylosians were demanding the council explain why they had been denied a cure for centuries. The trade species were in open rebellion, wanting access to the human fusion tech. We must strike. Kavix insisted, his clicks sharp with fury. They are undermining the very fabric of our society. And how? Pulsed the Alara representative. Do we declare war on medicine? Do we bomb a power generator? They offer peace and prosperity. They offer it to our people, not to you. Our people are taking it. The military tried once. A full battle group, the pride of the council, ambushed the Zhongjin as it visited a neutral system. They fired everything. Plasma, missiles, energy beams. The Zhongjin's gravity lenses bent the energy away. Its thick armor shrugged off the physical missiles. It did not fire back. Instead, it projected a shield around the civilian habitats of the system, protecting them from the council's own stray fire. Then, it slung away, leaving the battle group firing at empty space. The message was clear. Your weapons are not just ineffective. They are a sideshow. We have moved beyond the need for them. Ambassador Yuna's face became a familiar sight across the galaxy. She never threatened. She never demanded. She simply presented new facts. Your people need not suffer. Your ships need not be slow. Your science need not be stagnant. The Council's law was one of control. We offer a law of sharing. The choice is not between us and them. The choice is between the past and the future. On the bridge of the Zhongjin, Captain Jun watched the reports flood in. Systems were declaring neutrality, opening direct communications with Earth, bypassing the Council entirely. The old order was cracking under the weight of human generosity. It's working, General Kim Hwan said, a note of awe in his voice. They are not fighting us. They are joining us. Jun nodded, looking at the star map, now filled with new routes and friendly signals. They exiled a species they saw as weak and chaotic. They did not understand that our chaos was creativity. And our strength was never in our weapons. It was in our ability to see a problem, a disease, an energy crisis, a broken bridge, and to fix it. They chose to see that as a threat. So we showed them what a true threat looks like. It looks like a better way of life, and we are giving it to everyone but them. He turned from the screen. The supremacy they had forged in exile was not one of conquest. It was a supremacy of ideas, of solutions. And the galaxy, tired of the Council's stagnant, controlling peace, was eagerly reaching out to take it. The chamber on Oros Prime was the same, but it felt hollow. The soft, glowing light that once seemed majestic now felt thin and sickly. The circles of seats were not full. Many species had sent lower-level functionaries, or no one at all. They were busy, their governments preoccupied with new human technologies, new treaties, new possibilities that did not require council approval. Speaker Kavix stood at his platform. His carapace, once a symbol of polished authority, looked brittle. He was alone. The silence in the chamber was heavy with defeat. The great doors opened. There were no guards escorting the humans this time. Captain Park Jun and Ambassador Lee Yuna walked in side by side. They did not wear uniforms or formal suits. Jun wore the simple, functional jacket of a starship captain. Yuna wore a plain gray dress. Their footsteps echoed in the quiet room. They stopped in the very center, where they had stood a year and a half before to receive their sentence. They looked at Kavix, then slowly turned to look at the sparse, nervous assembly. Kavix's mandibles worked, but the sound was weak. "You have come. You asked for a meeting," Yuna said, her voice clear and carrying. "We are here." "You have broken the peace," Kavix said, the old accusation now sounding like a plea. Jun shook his head slowly. "No, we exposed that there was no peace. There was only control. You controlled the gates. You controlled the technology. You controlled who suffered and who did not. That is not peace. That is a prison with very nice walls." A representative from Zelos, whose children were now breathing easily thanks to human medicine, stood. Its voice was firm. "They have brought healing where you brought only decrees. They ask for nothing in return." A murmur, this time of agreement, rustled through the chamber. Kavix felt the last of his power slipping away. He had one card left to play, the only one the Council had ever known: hierarchy. The Galactic Council offers humanity reinstatement, a permanent seat on the High Council. Your innovations will be integrated into our systems for the benefit of all, under proper governance. He said it as if bestowing a great gift. The words hung in the air. John and Yuna looked at each other. A faint, almost sad smile touched Yuna's lips. She turned back to Kavix and the silent watchers. "We decline." The words were not shouted. They were simple, and they fell like stones. "Decline?" Kavix was baffled. To refuse a seat at the high table was unthinkable. The offer comes from a place that no longer exists. Yuna explained, her tone that of a teacher. "You offer us a chair in a house that is burning down. We are not interested in sitting. We are building a new house." Jun took a small step forward. The Galactic Council, as it stands, is finished. Its authority was built on scarcity of travel, scarcity of energy, scarcity of solutions. We have ended that scarcity. You cannot govern what you cannot control. He activated a small device in his hand. A star map projected above them. It was not the Council's map with its neat, gate-connected lines. This was a web of light, vibrant and interconnected, with dozens of systems pulsing with new energy signatures, new traffic routes. Many were former Council worlds. These systems are now in direct dialogue with Earth. They are sharing our science, and we are sharing theirs. We are forming a coalition. Voluntary 1. No one is forced to join. There are no high seats. There are only partners. The image shifted to show the soul system, not as a lonely, exiled dot, but as a bright hub in the new web. Humanity will anchor this new alliance, Jun continued, not as its master, but as its first member. We will call it the Compact of Soul. Its only law is this: knowledge must be shared, suffering must be alleviated, and no species shall ever again be called a contaminant for the crime of being different. The silence in the chamber was absolute. It was not the silence of judgment, but the silence of a paradigm shifting. Kavix understood now with a crushing finality. They had not come for revenge, or even for apologies. They had come to deliver a notice of obsolescence. And what of us? Kavix asked, the pride gone from his voice, replaced by a hollow need. Yuna's gaze softened, but only a little. You may apply to join the compact, if you wish. As equals, not as rulers. You will dismantle your old laws of control. You will share all the knowledge you have hoarded. You will learn, as we have learned in our exile, that true strength comes from lifting others up, not from pushing them down. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with those who would meet her gaze. The choice is yours. You can cling to the ghost of your power here, in this empty room. Or you can step outside, into the galaxy we are all building together. But you will do so without your gavel, without your title. You will do so as just another voice in the chorus. That is our only offer. She gave a slight, polite nod. Jun did the same. Together, without waiting for a dismissal or a reply, they turned and walked back toward the great doors. Their footsteps were the only sound dot. No one tried to stop them. No one spoke. The council members watched them go, their minds racing, calculating the new reality. Some felt fear. Some felt a shocking, sudden sense of hope as the doors closed behind Jun and Yuna. The projection of the new star map remained, hovering over the chamber, a glittering testament to a future the council had not made and could not dictate. It was the most powerful thing in the room. On the bridge of the Jongjin, orbiting high above Oros Prime, Jun and Yuna looked at the planet below. It was still beautiful, a blue-green jewel. Do you think they will join? Yuna asked. Jun leaned against the console, watching the star map on his own screen, now alive with friendly signals and queries from 100 worlds. Some will. The smart ones. The ones who care more about their people than their pride. The others, they will fade away. They will become a footnote, a warning about what happens when you mistake control for civilization. The ship was quiet. The crew worked efficiently, calmly. There was no celebration. There was a sense of profound, steady satisfaction. The work was not over. It was just beginning. Set a course for home, Jun said to the helmsman. But take the long way. There is a new research outpost in the Lyra sector asking for consultation on a geological anomaly. Let's go and see if we can help. As the Jongjin turned, its drives humming with a power that was once deemed impossible, Jun and Yuna stood side by side. They were not looking back at the world that had exiled them. They were looking forward into the deep, wide-open black, filled not with gates and barriers, but with paths and possibilities. They had been cast out to wither in the dark. So they had learned to become gardeners, and now they would help the whole galaxy bloom.